Reverend Tamara Rossander. I'm the spiritual director here. And today we have our wonderful guest speaker that we just love so much. We had to have her back right away, Missy Christensen, who's a practitioner in Campbell River. And of course we have our, well, I'd say he's my most favorite.
Oh, yeah. You say that every Sunday. Come on. Come on.
Do I say that every Sunday? Maybe. Maybe.
It's okay. It works. I'll take it.
So good. I know. Michelle's back there. She's also my most favorite.
See? Told you.
I know. So anyways, let us kick off our morning in a beautiful meditative state, and I welcome Nathen Aswell to start us off.
We come together in this moment. We bind our hearts and minds, for we all form a tapestry, woven from one life, one creation, undivided, all unique expressions of God. We come together now in one accord. We come together in this moment. We bind our hearts and minds, for we all form a tapestry, woven from one life, one creation, undivided, all unique expressions of God. We come together now in one accord.
As we take this moment and settle in, taking that breath together, the nourishment of life, as we breathe and come together in one accord, knowing that there's one life, one love, one universal divine mind that is operating right here, right now. This divine mind is expressing through and as each person here, each person watching, each person volunteering, each person being in service to others today in this beautiful community of CSL White Rock. As we take this moment to acknowledge all the work that goes into getting today ready, I am so grateful. I'm also grateful to recognize that I am a settler on this beautiful land, the unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including Semiahmoo, Katsi, Coquitlam, Kwantlen, Kikayet, Wasanich, and Tsawwassen First Nations. And I like to acknowledge this because it is important for us to be part of the solution. As CSL White Rock, our vision is a loving, vibrant world that works for all. If we walk this path with compassion, we can create a new world. One that it is a world that works for all. And with that, knowing that we are here and our 4 core beliefs that we celebrate each Sunday is one, that there is one life, one love, one universal divine mind. That life is the source of all life. It is the source of all things. And we are spirit having a human experience. And nothing outside of us needs to change for us to be happy. And my favorite is that we're here to walk each other home. And so it is.
One creation, undivided, all unique expressions of God. We come together now in one accord. We come together now in one accord. For grace, I stand before you, I stand before you, I stand before you, asking for grace. I stand before you, I stand before you, I stand before you, asking for grace.
Thank you, Nathan. Can you hear me? What a beautiful song. Great reminder that we are all spirit in human form. Thank you. I am Liv, one of the practitioners here at CSL White Rock, and I have gotten the task to introduce our guest speaker today, Missy Christensen. Some of you have already met her, but if it's your first time listening to Missy talk, then I'd like to introduce her with just a few words. So Missy has been a practitioner at Center for Inspired Living Campbell River since 2019. She's also a licensed coach, a performing artist, a co-founder of Spirit Circles online community, an activist, a self-proclaimed clown, a budding singer, and my dear friend. Missy realized a long time ago that she's called to grow through embodied learning, to discover the magic of play, and if you stick around for her workshop, you get to see what it's like, and to help those who are inspired to play as well. She's very much inspired by the works of Brené Brown and 15 Commitments, and has done extensive workshopping with this material. And one of Missy's favorite motto, we might actually hear it from her mouth today, as that if something is happening to me, it's for me. So please welcome Missy Christensen.
Thank you, Liv. Okay, I'm going to just... Thank you, Liv. There we go. I appreciate that. You put a lot of effort into that. Thank you. That's very nice of you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you for having me here. Can you all hear me okay? Okay, great. And hello to friends online. I know that Yvonne is there from back in Campbell River. I can't see who else is there, but thanks for being there. So as you know, our larger organization is the theme this month. Does anybody know the theme? I keep forgetting it personally, but it is Un-status Quo. And so last week's theme was, so the idea is that we're meant to talk about things that are not generally talked about in spiritual circles. So we're breaking the status quo. We're decolonizing our minds. And last week's was a talk about trauma. This week was meant to be a talk about sex. I find it interesting that one comes after the other. Because I think that's a lot of people's experiences. And my theme, as if you read the newsletter, was the big O problem, loving, pleasure, and pain. but that's not, the punctuation isn't exactly right. What it actually is the big O, problem-loving pleasure and pain. So we're going to delve into that a little bit. And so there's a subtle difference. So let's look at this idea of our sexuality, of pleasure, and of trauma. And the reason those are taboo to talk about is because somehow we've attached shame to them. And anything that we find shameful, we shove in the shadows. Whereas Brene Brown would say we need to bring our shame forward. We need to actually look at it, because what do we know about shadows? The minute you shine a light into them, then they don't exist anymore, because light is more powerful than shadows. So you can have a room, I think you've probably heard this metaphor before, you can have a room like this. If we try to make dark right now, that's going to be really challenging, right? Whereas if we have a room that is dark and I light a tiny little light, that will illuminate a large portion of the room. So light is more powerful than dark. So we're going to delve into the shadows a little bit and our shadow selves, and just eradicate the shame if we can, because there is no point to that. Shame is not a God principle. Beauty is a God principle. Love is a God principle. Light is a God principle. So, what do I mean by problem loving? That's something that Sean Ginwright talks about in his book, The Four Pivots. Thank you very much, Liv. She's my person on book. So the Four Pivots, he talks about problem loving, that we are a society that we love to examine problems. We love to break the problems down. We love to figure out what's wrong so we can fix it. But we're then fixing it from the point of view of problem. So really, what do we know about science of mind? That which we focus on grows. If I'm focusing on a problem, then I'm going to get more problem. Whereas if I can elevate myself beyond the problem to whatever the good may be, then I'm more likely to get that. So I believe that we live in a culture that is a problem-loving culture. And I actually believe that we live in a trauma culture. And not every culture is this, but a lot are. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of trauma out there on all kinds of levels, and there's a big spectrum. So there's the small traumas that we endure every day, like little places where we're ignored, or we don't get that promotion we want, or somebody's rude to us in the grocery store, or something like that. And you can say, well, that's not trauma. That's not a bomb going off next to somebody, or something horrible happening to them. But the truth is that it's all the little traumas add up to big ones. And then, of course, there's the really big ones. And often the places in life that we've gone to try and get solace, whether it be a church space or a home space or something like that, quite often those are places that kind of have perpetuated the trauma to some degree, because there's a price you have to pay. Sure, I'll give you solace, but you have to do this thing first, or you have to admit that you're a sinner first, or something that in some way brings up the shame, amplifies the shame. So yes, you can get some solace, but there's going to be some shame that you're going to have to go through first. And we've kind of gotten into that paradigm, and then we bring that with us into whatever else we do. So who here really knows? So we can look at this idea of trauma. We can look at this idea of sex. But I think in our culture, like, we're very focused on sex. It's not that we don't talk about sex. What we don't really talk about too much is love. Who here has been in love before? Yes, everybody. Who here has been in love and then it turned out that it maybe wasn't love? Right? So we don't really, okay, so my perception, my story, is that we don't necessarily really know what love is, because we are stuck in our body form. We're not stuck in our divine form, where love is infinite and multifaceted and multicolored and multi-energied. Instead, we're stuck in, oh, I love that. I love you. But it's this sort of, again, it comes with a price to pay. I love you as long as you. I love this as long as it gives me something. So it's loving to get, right? Whereas love is expansive. Love is about giving. The more you give love, the more there is created, the more comes to you. But there's this sort of smallness, this trauma that we live within around how we show up in love. And I would say that shows up in the bedroom as well. I will love you right now because I have to, because we're married, because I want to get something, because I want to feel complete, because I want to feel energized, because I need you to show me how much I matter. There's often a contract. It's often not something that is just, I'm here with you, we're present in the moment in our divinity, and we're sharing that, and there's something expansive, and yet we're all wanting that big O, right? That big thing that is ecstasy. And yet let's look at ecstasy for a second. Because, so do you know what I'm saying when I say big O? Who knows what that is? Who wants to say it out loud in church? Orgasm! Thank you very much. Yes, and so if you read Cosmopolitan magazine, I don't know what it's like in the men's magazines, but there's always this thing of like, oh, you've got to get to that. It's this thing, it's very transactional. We need to get to this thing, or somehow we're doing things wrong. We need to spice things up and be different, do all this external stuff in order to get to this thing that is the holy grail of what it is to connect to somebody. But if you're headed towards that, what you're actually in is problem loving. The problem is we're not having enough sex. The problem is we're not having enough orgasms. No, the problem is you're not actually present in love, in divinity. You're not actually curious about each other. You're not actually curious about this moment. You're going, oh, last time I did that, they really liked it, so I'm going to do that again. And that'll get us to the big O, right? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's not your experience. I don't know. And we have these things where we sort of fake things in order to make the other person feel better. Who feels good when somebody fakes things? Anybody? Do you like being lied to? No? But somehow it's way too scary to hold one another's actual intimacy, to hold our vulnerability. So we'd rather sort of go for some big splashy, dancing ponies thing than being present and allowing that something profound can happen in the small moments, and that those small moments are everywhere when we're connecting with each other. And what do we know about love? What are the kind of the basic building blocks, according to science of mind, of like what makes the world work? Like what is the universe? If we had to synthesize it down to two things, what are those two things? Love and law. Look at you. You're good at your job over there with on book. Love and law. So who knows lots about law, how things work? Right? We tend to go towards, well, here's something I can quantify. Here's something I can tick off. I understand law. But love, I don't know. I think I'm in love. Feels like love until I'm not getting what I want anymore, and then it doesn't feel like love, and then I'm going to go look for love somewhere else, or until I read a magazine that makes me feel shameful about the way that my love is progressing. And what about those people who don't even like sex? So that's something that, or they're asexual, or they have other desires. There's so much shame around all of it that people can't even say that. There's something wrong with you if you say that, because the magazines say, sex ed said, and I find too that there's this sort of worry about talking about it. So I know that when I reach that time in my life where I biologically wear my meat suit that I wear around, became a woman, that was the time to have the conversation. But I didn't get the conversation. What I got was a pile of public health pamphlets on my bed, and my mother cryptically going by and going, "It's always wonderful with the one you love." And I thought, what are we talking about? Like, I've only just gotten my period. What are we talking about here? It was confusing to me. And I'll ask you another question. Who here believes that it's always wonderful with the one you love? Always. No, right? Oh, you believe that? Oh, good. Well, I wish I had lived your life. But what does that even mean? And what does love even mean? If I'm doing some sort of transactional something, then am I actually connecting? Is that actually love? So maybe it really is always wonderful with the one you love if you actually know how to love, or even know what love is. Or don't think of something as love being out there, but instead, I am love. I'm wandering around in this form, which I like to call meat suit because that amuses me. But I am love. I am infinite love. You are infinite love. And our job here is to work this thing in order to embody that. And yet, we're transactional about it instead. Or we think that love is something out there. Or we think we need to be having the big O. So, what I think is, we're not actually loving love, real love, unknowable love, love that you need to maintain continual curiosity about. I think maybe we're loving drama. When I say I love someone, it's like, oh, I love you, I want you. Well, this is what we see on movies, you know. Oh, it's so dramatic. I can't live without you. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I love you. But you're wanting something, right? Please fill this for me. Or I'm looking for my twin flame. Or I'm looking for my other half. I'm looking for that thing that will complete me. My soulmate. Well, what does science of mind say about whether you're complete or not? You are perfect. You are whole. You are complete. Guess what you are? You're a big O. Right? You're a big, complete circle. Has anybody ever seen Shel Silverstein's book, Shel Silverstein's book, The Missing Piece Meets the Big O? So it's, I'll tell you a short version. I love it. It's a great metaphor for life as far as I'm concerned. It's a children's book. But so there's a little missing piece. It's a little triangle. And it's constantly looking for its big O. And so it's trying to complete something in order to make this big O. So all of these other sort of circles roll by, and they've got various different missing parts. And it's like, oh, can I fit in you? And it fits itself in, and they try to roll, and then it falls out. Or it's, oh, can I fit in you? But it's sticking out the end, and they try to roll, and it's like uncomfortable, and they can't do it. Or, you know, there's too many missing pieces within one. They've got too many other things going on. So there's all these, desperate to, this little triangle just believes that it's a missing piece. That's its life's mission. I got to find the thing that completes me. Who's heard that in love? That's the thing that we're looking for, that thing that completes us. Or even just that funny saying, my better half, right? But that's not love. That's leaning, that's belief and a practice of incompleteness. And we can't fully love as the whole divine beingness that we are if we're practicing a practice of I am not complete. Because then what I'm coming to you with is I am incomplete. I either need to fill you or you need to fit me in. And so therefore it's a contract. Immediately it's a transaction that we're doing instead of an exploration and expansion that we're doing. So at one point, finally, after all this trying, a big circle comes along, and it's happily rolling along because it's complete. It's the big O. And the little triangle says, well, can I come with you? And the circle says, well, sure, yeah, you can come. And they go, but I need to fit in you. I'm a missing piece. So where can I fit? And they, well, I don't need anybody to fit. But you can come with me. And the missing piece is, but like, I'm a triangle. I can't, you're rolling and I can't roll. And the big O says, well, have you ever tried? And so the circles, well, I can't. And so off goes the big O, and well, you lost it. Why did you lose it? Because you were too busy thinking about your brokenness. You were too busy thinking about, I need to fit into something. Something whole came, and you didn't recognize it. You didn't recognize that you could be that too. And so then the little triangle sitting there all by itself for the longest time, and then finally it's like, okay, well, nothing else has worked. Fine, I will try. So it's like, lift, pull, flop. And it keeps trying, lift, pull, flop, lift, pull, flop. And then little by little, like the ends start to break off. It's like lift, pull, flop. It becomes a little bit easier to move. Lift, pull, flop, lift, pull, flop, lift, pull, flop, lift, pull, flop. And pretty soon it's like, hey, I am now a circle. I am now whole because I have lifted myself up and I have pulled and I have flopped. I have allowed myself my shame. I have allowed myself to fail. I have allowed myself to lean into love, trusting and knowing if I just keep practicing, I will get there. And then all of a sudden, I'm a circle. And then it's like, hey, and off it goes. And then there's the big O. And then the two of them meet up and they're like, hey, let's go together. But nobody's fixing anybody. It's not transactional. They're there because they can be there, because they believe that they are fully whole. And even if, I bet you, that big O came back and the little triangle was trying, I bet you it might have waited around because it would have seen that the work was being done, right? Recognizing that we can hold space for people who aren't there yet in their divinity, but the divinity is always there. So it's like you were saying in your meditation. There is the God that we believe in, and then there's the God that is. And the God that is a big O. You already have the big O. It's just a question of whether you believe in it or not. And if we can allow ourselves our vulnerability, if we can make peace with that, if we can pull ourselves out of the shadows, and we can get to a place where we recognize that that divinity is within us, and that is what we amplify, then we can get to a point where we can actually be vulnerable with another person. So the likelihood that the other kind of big O is going to happen is way higher because you're present with each other. You're curious about each other. You're in this moment. You're not going, now, well, let me get Cosmo out and see what was I supposed to do at this point. Oh, I'm supposed to, none of that stuff. It's like we're here and we're playing together. And one of the things that I learned in theater school, which is part of the reason that I bring some of my training from theater school into the work that I do now, is if you're not crashing and burning, you're not learning. But we need to create those safe spaces to do it. And how do we create those safe spaces to do it? We start here. We start here by saying shame is not a God principle. And what is the God that I am worshiping? Is it the God of drama? Is it the God of, I need you to complete me, or I'll never be enough, or, oh, I'm just so in awe of you that I'll put you on a pedestal, and it very enlivening, not sustainable, which is the same thing as a big O. Ecstasy is like a moment where the faces that you make and the sounds that you make in the throes of ecstasy are the same as when you're in agony. It's that razor's edge. And the choice is your focus, really, as to what the experience is for you. And to some degree, that drama is unsustainable. But you can believe that that is like the only thing that you can get to, and then if you're not able to sustain it, there's something wrong with you. Or you can know that that is part of the fullness of this like spectrum of love that is available to you. So I invite you to I'm not going to say to not. No, that's not a principle. What do we want instead? Well, if your good is your God, as Emma Curtis Hopkins says, so what is the good that you're going towards? I invite you to lean in to whatever that may be and ask yourself, what are the limitations I'm putting on myself by trying to be this perfect version of something that a traumatized culture has told me is the right way to be? And instead, I recognize that we're all doing the best we can in a system that tells us consistently through advertising and media or whatever that there's something wrong with us, that we're not safe. If we screw up, somebody's going to point the finger at us. People are looking for blame. They're looking for the problem. That's just practice. That's been our practice. We're practicing blame. We're practicing shame instead of practicing love and oneness and allowing ourselves to get to that point where we can actually expand into something beyond our knowing. So, my invitation to you then is, how much pleasure are you willing to accept? Ask yourself that the next time you start beating yourself up about whatever you're not doing right in the bedroom or the boardroom or wherever. And remember that love and law are the only two things that are real. And the law is not about punishment. The law is about, this works every single time. That's a law. So that which I focus on grows. I invite you to grow into love.